Hi everyone and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Josef Schinwald. Josef is CEO of Guest Experts on Air. His diverse experiences in the media landscape ranging from associate publisher to vice president of a multinational newspaper throughout Latin America and a professor in paradigmatic business designs at 3 universities. I'm actually struggling with that term, Josef. So welcome to the show, and let's have a chat about podcasting, AI, business, and marketing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jeff, that I was invited to be on your show, on your world-class show. And, I really look forward to this interview because I think we resonate on those topics you just mentioned.
Yep. So how did you get into, I suppose, social media? How did you get into podcasting? So how did your journey start, actually?
But all things interviews are good because when I was as Austrian, I started in the States. I got a job with a hemisphere newspaper. I ended up in Buenos Aires. And there I was invited, after I was also teaching at the university, like 50 times to television. And it was one of my highlights just to be on television. And so when I saw the opportunity after, I was doing internet marketing when I went back to Canada at that time. I was seeing the opportunity with e-commerce. I was there in the beginning, 2006, with 𝓬𝓵. There was the first internet marketing community. There were all the big shots, all the real brains, the good brains, the high-level people who were really almost faculty. They taught you everything about internet marketing. So I got a very good e-commerce store in the wedding industry, made me $400,000 a year with search engine optimization. But then that I was living the dream life in Central America, 10 years, beautiful beaches with my laptop. And then suddenly I was basically, Google punished me for being intelligent and doing the search engine optimization. Then I became more interested in what I really want to do. And that was, I remembered how I got really great clients in Buenos Aires for consulting from my interviews. And then when the podcasting started, I said to myself, I don't want to go anymore to selling products because I'm dependent maybe on, well, I didn't want to be dependent on Facebook, these are just platforms, right? But they are not mine. They can, like Google. I was on the #1 page for 9 years, and then I was suddenly on the 3rd page in Google search engine results. So I didn't want to depend on them anymore. And there was also then the thing with Amazon, but I was tired of products also. So I started thinking about what is something I really want to do, where I rely only on myself, on my expertise. And that was actually something where I could help other experts get the visibility, the brand, create their brand, and leverage audiences which they didn't even build themselves because they're leveraging other people's audiences. So podcast guesting. And when I started out 5 years ago, I immediately attracted some really high-level people, and I really enjoyed it. Since then, I enjoyed it since then.
Okay, so what fascinates you about podcasting today?
First of all, we are in the age of AI, so there will be a lot of artificial stuff. And when you have when you can use it, it's great. But you have to see the human aspect in it. So it's like, when you have, in the future, there will be, maybe I just heard it today morning in an interview. It was very, very interesting with 𝓬𝓵𝓵. I don't know if you heard about him, but he said the future will be that there will be people, the rich ones, the wealthy ones, who actually tell robots what to do. And the robots, they will tell everybody else what to do. So you have to use the AI in a way that it is, that you use it. You get a bigger brain through it. And you can use it in your humanness, and particularly when you are on podcasts and you are a thought leader because you have used AI in your research, and you can use it really well in your research. You can use it to become a thought leader, or you use it just, like I prepared myself now for your interview with you, because I look at your website, I look at my website, I ask questions, and I have a chat with ChatGPT. And so
Right.
I know what we resonate with, right? So actually that is what is good with podcasting, because you get an incredible opportunity to show your human face while everything else is always becoming more and more artificial intelligence. While you use it, the artificial
Yep.
intelligence, but you get the personal touch because you are interviewed, you are on, and then you can also nowadays with the social media, you can actually again show your face with certain small clips of these interviews, which is a content marketing strategy for the whole year. Because if you have a podcast guesting tour like with us, you're getting maybe 20, 30 high-end podcasts where the interviewers like you, they ask pointing questions with the intelligent people. So you're getting to talk about your expertise from different angles, perspectives, and it will be always interesting for your audience, your wider audience. And when they see these clips on social media, just 1 minute, because they're not necessarily podcast subscribers, but they see you all the time
Yep.
on social media. You will get that status and that authority. The status is the go-to expert for what you talk all the time about. And then the authority, because the perception is the myth. And that is not necessarily what is true, but you don't have to change it. It's not unethical. What happens is the myth is that you are constantly being invited while
Yep.
you have an agency, or you pitch yourself to the podcast hosts. You research them, you pitch, because they're not looking for you. There are so many out there, particular experts, particularly because the podcast hosts, they get so many pitches themselves, they're not looking for somebody unless it's a very specific podcast.
Yep. Yeah, so it was really interesting. I had a chat recently, and he'd used ChatGPT I said, "How did you find me?" And he said, "I used ChatGPT to actually plug in blogging and AI into ChatGPT, and you showed up." And I went, "Really?" So I went, "So the reason you're actually wanting to have a chat is because of ChatGPT." And I found that fascinating.
Yes, it is. It's like we are the first ones. It's like the paradigm shift. I told you paradigmatic case studies, right? Paradigmatic. Beyond the paradigm is basically paradigma. It's beyond the spoken word. Paradigma, it's beyond. And the paradigm shift is basically, it's always happening. You cannot avoid it. It's like reinvent yourself and what you do, because nothing stays the same. Heraclitus said it, the ancient Greek philosopher. Change is the only constant. Nothing changes but change all the time.
Exactly.
So actually, when you are now in that profit model, several actually, that is the first mover advantage, because you are familiarizing yourself already every day with this AI, and you can use it for marketing and for your business, and you do it every day. And it takes time. Everything good takes some time. You have to learn it, and then you have the learning curve, another profit model. So ultimately, you will also have a profit model of lower cost for your business. Sounds cruel, but a lot of people, they say 40% will lose their jobs in the beginning already, when this becomes
Yep.
more and more popular. So then you have to be there in the beginning. It's like that's the wisdom of Charles Darwin. It's not like, when people misunderstand it, really what it is, with the survival of the fittest, it is the ones who first adapt. When you adapt fast, you will survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm curious about social media. Now I'm very curious about AI.
Mhm.
So how does AI impact what you're doing with your business?
Research. Like when I get a new client, I get clients, they are elite professionals. So sometimes it would take me really like probably a week to really dig into their website. What is so unique with them? We have
Right.
where they've been interviewed and all this. So with AI, it's fantastic for research. So when I developed the positioning, the pitch, because I have to present that client as a strawberry, like right in front of the face of the podcast host. The better, the more I get, because I look at those unique things, because as a podcast host, let's talk about a life coach. I mean, there are millions of life coaches out there. You can't just say I'm a life coach when you want to reach an elite podcast, right? So you have to dig down and you have to find that thing which makes you unique, where the table of discussion worldwide, globally, wants you to express your opinion. So you bring it, you know, I think I made myself clear. It helps me a lot with research, with statistics. I write also about my expertise as a podcast booker, but the elite podcast booker, so to speak, right? And it's very, very good. I read books about it, many books. There are many books out there, you know, and that is very important also, like books for thought leaders, books for authors, and all these things. You know.
Okay. So you're in the podcast space. So what would you recommend to people that actually want to get really great guests on the show?
All right, you have to, first of all, you know, what I see often is we still struggle sometimes with that the one barrier, with that fear of public speaking.
Right.
That you have to acknowledge it. We are all afraid of it. Some people say it's the fear is bigger than the fear of death.
Right.
Well, I've been many times on television, and I tell you, the first time I was on television, it was like I disappeared. I was like seeing myself from above on the chair, and then I didn't see myself anymore. But after a while, it became so fun because I really loved it. And that is the first thing. The second thing is you know, the ego. Everybody has an ego, and it's a good thing. It's a representation of who we are. But if it's out of order, if it's like I get sometimes also people on the Zoom call, and I feel like, you know, they expect the podcast hosts to take them because they're so great. But, you know, you have to really think about the podcast host has been years working on the show. He created with very disciplined working. He worked on those audiences. Now, that podcast guest wants to be there. He wants to speak in front of the audience. What does he bring? So the podcast guest has to really think, the one who wants to be promoted on podcast shows and wants to show his expertise and wants to become visible and wants to sell his book and wants to get new clients, he has to understand really that's all a give and receive. You want to be on a podcast show, you better think that showing in your pitch already that you have a very unique value from the content perspective, and that you bring some very valuable talk to that kind of podcast, and that you will share it on your social media. And if that is very good, a social media presence, that will help you a lot getting podcasts. If they're not very good and you don't have a book, then you better make sure that you have a very unique topic. But it's always competitive. You must be unique, you know.
So you mentioned the term must be unique. Take me there.
Okay, see, uniqueness is a good topic because, as I told you earlier, you know, I like spirituality. I have my own podcast. It's called 𝓵𝓵. It's a fun podcast. I have really great guests on it, but I just do it because I like to also do podcasting. And a uniqueness, when you think about it in spiritual terms, it's like, you know, I mean, there is infinite potentiality in this world, and you somehow have this dream where you didn't plan your dream. It's out of control, actually. That dream we are living is out of control. We are basically deciding not to be it, the universe, which we are. And we are born at a certain time. We are born differently. We are born in different places. And then comes all these desires we have for certain experiences in life. And then when we reach a certain age, we are quite unique, you know. And when we know that we are not plain vanilla, that we are not everybody, even though we are me, everybody is a me, a universal self, but we are here to entertain ourselves, to learn from each other. We are very diverse. So that's uniqueness. If you want to make money with some uniqueness you have, then you better make sure that it has a great value to the people you offer your service, right? Your expertise. And you have written extensively about it, like in a book, or you've studied it, and you have experience from it. That is uniqueness.
So you're unique, you're creating a podcast, you're interviewing guests. How do you actually amplify yourself through social media?
Well, that is, I would always suggest to do both. I mean, you know, people say, should I have a podcast, or should I go as a guest expert and leverage other people's audiences on podcast as a guest? Why not do both? Because when you are, let's say, attractive to podcast hosts in your niche, very relevant, and you send them a picture, you work through a podcast agency like I do, like I have, then you will be accepted like 3 times. You want to make sure that's not too often, like 3 times a month. A podcast is great. If you get a 1% global rank on a podcast, it's about 5,000 people who will listen to you.
Right.
That's average as a statistics. So you get like 20,000 maybe a month. In a year, we're talking about over 200,000 people.
Right.
And sometimes 1 million, because you get also, if you're really good, 0.01%, then you have 100,000 people already, right? But you want to make sure that you don't go to average podcast necessarily, because sometimes it's a roll of dice, and you don't even know whether somebody listens to you, unless it's really so relevant, because you also want to maybe network. And that's the thing. The podcasting, when you're a podcast guest and you know how to do it well, you will fantastically network. Networking opportunities are everywhere when you are on podcasts, right? Networking.
Yep.
But not only this, you also reach your wider audience, right? But all of this is basically the advantage. And there are many more, but I don't want to talk about it, because it's like obvious that through this medium, that one marketing channel called podcasting, which is quite unique itself, it connects everybody, whole world, globally, that you have another opportunity next to your blog, next to your Facebook advertising or LinkedIn engagements, whatever. You have another opportunity, and you should absolutely use it. You should do the podcast guesting, and you should do the podcasting itself in your brand, to build your brand, because through the podcast guesting, you get great network of experts to your podcast. Also in the pitch, you can say you're happy to do the exchange, also to invite that person also on your podcast, because it's already a fit, because it's the same niche, it's the same industry. But I would not neglect, and people only sometimes do only podcasting. I wouldn't do that only because you get such a leverage from being on other people's podcasts, from their audiences, and the networking. That's what I wanted to say.
So one of the major superpowers of podcasting is networking. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a new network. It's a new networking. I experience it myself because I have the agency, but I also do what I preach. So I like to go on podcast, and I get now, I have to cut it down almost. I get a lot of opportunities because people refer me, and it's not all pitching is very easy nowadays, because I fine-tuned it and I made it better. And so, but I'm very happy each time that a month goes by. I was on 3-4 podcasts. I could go more, but in a year it just adds up, like 4 podcasts times 12. Yeah, it's almost 50.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I just love having a conversation with fascinating people, and you just don't know where it's going to go, do you?
That's right. I mean, the conversation itself is very fulfilling.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling. So where's the future of podcasting for you?
Well, the stats, when I see like successful podcasters like you, and of course I have lots in my network because I have this guest experts on air booking agency.
Yep.
I can clearly see that the future now, look, the statistics now, we have exactly around 505 million listeners in 2004, since January.
Right.
That's from January 2024, sorry. We have 5 million listeners. But that's not the most extraordinary thing. And people say, how so many podcasts? That doesn't even count either, because you have, like the statistics say, according to Podcast Index, that we have 4.5 million podcasts worldwide. But, in my experience, and also from other statistics, I know that only 400,000 of those millions are actually interview-based. And from there, only 40,000 are really active. And then you think about all the people who do the comedy and the true crime podcasts. Well, where's the podcast, the business podcast? So for an individual, an expert, like in his niche, he has probably, I would say, 500 podcasts he can be on. It's a lot, but it's not like millions, right? So you have to be, you don't get second chances sometimes. You have to be from the very beginning very strategic. So where does it go? The last statistics I want to say here for your audience is fascinating. It's fascinating. It's like the compound growth rate of podcast market itself, the market, It comes to 2030. We will reach 2030. The market of podcasting will be $130 billion because from now on, every year, it compounds growth rate 27% statistically.
Right.
So this is amazing. I mean, you think all about those podcasters who right now go in there the next 7 years, you know, you might, the possibilities are incredible to actually make money with this.
So what do you love most about podcasting?
It's you know, what we all didn't know before podcasting, we all didn't know how many experts are really out there. It's for me, it's just amazing and fascinating to realize how talented so many people are and how deep and how advanced. You know, I have sometimes people on my podcast. They are 25 years, and I say, well, it took me all my life to get this kind of insights. They have them already, so you get surprised, right? It's not always opera. It's not always that vertical thing where it's like the huge entry level and barrier to entry. No, also, you know, you get a microphone as a brand, as a solopreneur, you get a microphone. You can suddenly talk. If you do this right, you can talk every week or so to your wider audience. That fascinates me.
Yeah. So it sounds like you just love having conversations with interesting people. Is that correct?
Yes, look, Jeff, I live also in a small village in Mallorca, a mountain village.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of fascinating people. Like they come from, Mallorca is an island in Spain. So they come from Germany, they come from Sweden, I'm from Austria, England. And these are all great conversations we have here. And after COVID, it's fantastic. But additionally, I have these clients and, you know, with whom I can be together from time to time and have interviews where I get to know new people like yourself. That is for me, well, very, very, very fascinating because I don't live in a metropolitan city anymore like I did. Like I lived in New York a long time where I studied. I lived in Buenos Aires, but now I'm just in a small village. The whole thing is 700 people. But I can tell you, it's so fulfilling, so many people, interesting, extraordinary people I meet every week. You know, I need that small village because otherwise I would get crazy. You know, there's a beach here and it's all nature. So I go a lot of hiking and all this, but I would probably be bored otherwise.
Okay. So you mentioned there's a spiritual aspect to life that ends up with talking to people. Tell me more about that.
Well, we have to be, you know, I'm very grateful for language because, you know, if we wouldn't know the language and we get everything from others, it's just amazing. We are kind of like in the Buddhist tradition, we are kind of nothing and everything. But because of language, we can actually communicate, we can chat with others. And, you know, that is actually one of the wonderful things in life. So otherwise, you would only be always by yourself. And that way, and that, you know, the spiritual aspect is to recognize that we are just one of many. We are me, and everybody's a me. I actually one time had a spiritual experience about it. I was coming back from Latin America. I was traveling with two high school friends for 1 year. So I was only 21. It was 1982. And I relaxed in my garden. I read some stuff, like, you know, whatever you write. You read like spiritual wisdom, tradition stuff. And suddenly I go to bed and I go out in this universe and I see people like me, and we wanted to, we looked at each other and we all realized that we're all just me. Everybody's just me.
Right.
And that is the beautiful thing, because that's the universe, right? And that's spirituality. And so just talking with people, broadcasting and all this is a very enriching experience in life. Getting to know, recognizing that people have had traumas just like you, they have studied just like you, they have ambitions just like you. We're not very different, but we are very unique, you know, but in a sense, that is enriching for me at least.
Yeah. So you're fascinated by actually having conversations with people that you get to the core of what it means to be human. Is that right?
Yes, yes. What it means to be human, really, I think, is that consciousness that we are human. Because when you look in the other dark side of the history, right, You see, many times the worst things happened in this world when people lost that consciousness of who they are. Like just an artist, you know, who wants to be a Nazi?
Yeah.
They are terrible human beings. I mean, but they lost it. They forgot who they actually are, you know. And there are still people like this. I mean, we had all these genocides in the world, and that's the thing, you know, where I feel like it all comes from the heart, comes from us. You don't even need to believe in a God if you don't want to. It's like in the Orient, you know, there's a different conception of spirituality than in the Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition, where you need a Messiah, where you have to have one because you had the original sin and all this. If you believe that, perfectly fine. I love everything. I just don't believe it.
Right.
What I believe is, you know, it can change. I'm very flexible. I like to just be inspired, and I like wisdom, tradition, I like wisdom. And spirituality for me is, Jeff, it's like mindfulness, right? Mindfulness, you can be mindful about eating, about dancing, about all kinds of things. Mindfulness is very popular nowadays, even with business leaders. But when I walk in nature, like it's beautiful Mallorca, even wintertime is everything is green, fantastic, oranges, everything. I could be mindful of like my steps, and I should be, and I am, you know, I don't want to fall down. But ultimately, mindfulness for me just reflects who you are. Mindful, who is being mindful? Who is that? Who is mindful? Who am I? That's mindfulness for me. Spirituality, same thing, has nothing to do with religion. Spirituality for me, it is more like that. I feel it's the essence of the universe, and everybody is this. They call it in India Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi actually is you are it, but we are kind of, when we live our lives, we kind of play as if we are somebody else, and
Right.
that is the whole idea about this dream in life, that we pretend to be somebody else, but actually we are it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like we have this like thing that happens like when I grow up, I want to be like, you know, Steve Jobs, or when I grow up, I want to be like Bill Gates. So let me ask you a question then. What are you curious about, most curious about? And it might be several things because we're all curious. Well, as humans, we can be very curious. What are you curious about?
My curiosity was all my life, actually, very early, already in childhood. I would say 7 or 8 o'clock, when I stayed outside with some friends. We were basically, I had a little house in the garden. My brother had one also, so we could invite friends and stay there all night. It was like 7 or 8 years, and we talked about the universe, and it was always that recurring question with me: who am I?
Yep.
Who am I? That's curiosity, because it seems like this is while we are here, while we are living. I mean, I just wonder sometimes, Jeff, how can people be so focused on objective things, on objective knowledge and all this, and they don't know the subjectivity of themselves? I mean, it's nice to know all these things, but really, when you die, you know nothing. And when you're born, you know nothing. The only thing we know is it's me. We can only go inside that light in the darkness, and that's very comforting. But then all this stuff we think we know, and it's just a dream. I think it's just a very important and fantastic dream. I'm curious about more experiences. I love experiences. I was recently asked, Joseph, you should write a book. I said, no, I don't waste my time on a book. I like new experiences. As long as I live, it's fascinating. Experiences is fascinating.
Right. So curiosity is one thing. In other words, we can be curious about many things, right? And I am very curious about many things. I started my blog in 2009 because I was curious about the impact of social media. And that curiosity was, I suppose, enabled because we got a lot of traffic attention. On the other hand, beyond curiosity, what is the drive that compels you? I'm fascinated by that. So compelling is actually like what drives Joseph?
It's really that whole existence. I'm not very much into objectifying things. I like to come to the subjectivity. It means what is the consciousness? What is the awareness? Where does it lead me? What is this all about? The curiosity is more like about life in general and metaphysical stuff as well. So I'm constantly going into things. I studied 5 years in New York when I did my master's. And I think about these things often. It's like Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism. It's just that really fulfills me the most, and that's where I'm most curious.
Yep.
And just to get insights every day, something. I like that. So I live my life. Of course, we have to do our business, and I'm also very curious about AI, the way this turns out, and how we can control it actually, because it's so fascinating, and I want to have it in marketing and all this. So how will it be next year? Now I can make I can upload a video of me. It comes up in HG, right? With my voice and everything. Then I can go to ChatGPT and I can say, write me. I get a real interesting article with everything, statistics, everything about a certain subject where I want to be thought leader. And I can say, what are the 20 best copywriters in the world? Rewrite it, act as a copywriter, whatever. Make sure it goes to originality.ai, so it's no plagiarism, no AI is detected. Upload it as a script, and suddenly I'm on the video talking about it. It's me.
Right.
And I can do already now. Man, you can use these things really bad in a bad way. But if you use it in a good way, it's fascinating to me, because you get what is it? I mean, you have to have a way. If you want to make money in the future, you have to, it's always the same. I mean, you have to use it, this kind of things. And the more often you can say, buy from me on the internet, but basically because physically you can't say it too often, but like in advertising, the more often you can say, buy from me, the more money you will make. And that's also important, because it gives your ego a little bit a boost, and you can live a comfortable life. And you can do great things for the world also, because you don't want to do anything which is not useful.
So podcasting and AI, very interesting area. How do you think AI is going to impact podcasting in the future?
Yes. Yeah. First of all, I think we have to use it to differentiate ourselves, to be even more human than before, more natural, more human. And when we use it, we can really admit it. I was chatting with ChatGPT, and I got this extra information, the statistics, whatever. It's also not just ChatGPT, it's Perplexity is very good, perplexity.ai. You can ask that it's the replacement. Google will be gone soon. I mean, it seems like it, Google is like, who wants to have just links when you ask some question, you want the answers. And so the podcasting, when I look at the really great shows, they are churning out one episode after the other. And sometimes in order to get a second episode out in the week, that gives them a huge boost in popularity, in global rank, listen score. And so you can use AI a lot for preparing yourself for the podcast, for the expert. You can research him, but you can also do the solo shows on your expertise, right?
Yep.
Very well, because with AI, you just have to be honest about it, But people will get used to it, because you have to have quite an intelligence to use it well. It has terrible. Sometimes you have to fact check it, because it's sometimes agrees to some stupid thing,
Yeah.
It does.
So
You have to fact check it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so
that's the future.
Yeah. So you can ask a question, and the term used is hallucination, isn't it?
A big one.
The term actually, when you ask ChatGPT, is that it hallucinates.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it does, and you can't argue with it. It's it will tell you later. It will say, ChatGPT is now closed in another 2 hours. Can't use it anymore. No, you can't use the ChatGPT before, right? But it's like everything else. I mean, people have been talking a lot about Google, SEO, and all these things people become very talkative about it when it's really growing. But you have to just be able to grow your mind, your brain with it, and use it, because you are the subject of it. As I said, this guy today, I listened to his interview. And it was Billie Jean interviewing. There was a secret. It was a community stuff. You had to be logged in with this 𝓬𝓵, and he said it in the future. He actually said, and I believe it almost. It's not that the rich people will become richer. That was already the crossing point was there. I mean, the blue collar workers, they went down, and the middle class, and the richer people become richer again with artificial intelligence. It says as well, and there will be people who will tell the robots what to do, and the most of the people will be told by the robots what to do. You see?
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about it. You don't want to be in that group.
So, how did you get into podcasting?
Yeah, because I when I was actually actually in these 50 television shows, and I love interviews and being interviewed. And then I said, I love also to be talking intelligent communications with extraordinary people. So that's how I got into it, because I right away attracted a few clients. I did it on the side, and then more and more and more. And now I've continuously always some 15 clients, which is good in the podcasting world, in the podcasting guesting world, because they stay the whole year, they stay another year, they renew their packages. Like I sell 10 packages, and then after that 10 interviews are done, I get another renewal and a renewal, and they're happy. And I make good money, but it's like it's a nice job also. I like it.
Okay. So tell me more how you actually make money out of podcasting then. You just mentioned a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. So there is, first of all, if I get a prospect on the Zoom meeting, we are talking right away about my value proposition is I'm elite podcast. I get them elite podcasts, like 5,000, 10,000 interviews per podcast interview.
Right.
And we talk about the marketing objectives of the client. We talk about, I study them really well, I research them well before they come. And then what they want to accomplish with the podcast guesting tour. And it's always the same. I mean, the thought leaders, they've written a book. Some charismatic leaders, they do their retreats, and they have like already lots of people, but they want to get more, and you have to always continuously be visible out there. So, and then everybody has their own objectives basically, but that's important. What kind of audience they want to reach, that's super important, because that determines afterwards what kind of experts, similar experts, I'll identify with my research, so I can look at on what kind of podcast they have been on. See? Because I want to shortcut this. I don't want to go to podcasts. They don't even do interviews, or or they are like in-house, like big consulting companies. They only want to interview their own clients. I want to get on podcasts right away through a shortcut when I research, by identifying 20 experts similar to my client. Right. And then I look at the experts similar to my client on which podcast they have been on. Then I can research. I get my podcast tracker sheet full with 20 podcasts. I have written a whole day. I worked on that pitch. I work with software. I follow up, multi-channel follow-up. I follow up with email, of course. Email is the best here. But LinkedIn is very good also to have on the side, because you have to transmit a certain amount of information about your client, which means the bio, what topics he can talk about. You have to have links into this book or her book, and the social media and all this. So, and it's very common that B2B email is open. I have like an 87% open rate on my email campaigns.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's podcast hosts, so they need it, because if they don't have new clients, new guests, they have they don't have any content for their podcast.
Okay. So I'm going to be a little bit ego-driven here. So how come you approached me to be on my podcast? I'll be curious about that.
Yes. Well, I have a client. His name is Rocky Buckley. He has the 𝓵𝓵 project on Facebook. He's like, with coaches and people. And I pitched him to you. That was a long time ago. I think it was maybe a year ago. Right. And he talked very well about you. So he said, that was great. And then I saw you also in the group of him, in the Facebook group. There are like thousands of consultants and coaches. And I said, well, I felt already I got even more interested. And then I said, I'm also into marketing because I don't see myself so much like a podcast guy running around, on the big conferences and having the headset on. I feel much more to do outside things. Like I could talk about podcasting with accountants, but I like it from the outside in, right? I like it when I'm in the marketing realm. That's what I am, internet marketing. So then I said, I could also pitch myself to Jeff because I saw your great attitude with 𝓵𝓵, as a friend of mine. It's actually a consultant. We meet once a month,
Right.
and that's how I approached you.
Right. Yeah, I just love having conversations with interesting people, and that's what I'm really enjoying about right here, right now. And you come at it from a very organic, natural space, which I love.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Very kind words. Thank you.
So, in terms of how do you monetize podcasts from your perspective? How does it work?
With both. Yes. Well, podcast booking as an agency is a marketing agency, basically, publicity agency, public relation agency, visibility agency. So you help people who need traffic. So it's either you do exactly. You either have paid. You need traffic if you have a business. So you can do paid traffic, or you get organic traffic, but that also is a lot of work. Like think about search engine optimization, writing blog posts, content marketing. It's also work, right? You sometimes have to pay somebody, but you can also do the advertising. But you always need paid. You need always traffic. So with the podcasting world, obviously it is different because you get 45 minutes to talk about your brand. So your brand is when people are in the room and you're not there, what are they talking about you, right? That's your brand.
Yep.
And when you get the chance to talk 40 minutes about your expertise, people hear your compelling story, and they get to know the links to your book and to your website and all this. And if they're really interested, come into your ecosystem of profitability, they pay for it. So I have this agency where I do like 3 interviews experience package because I like the people, because I asked also ChatGPT, I analyzed all my competitors, and it said about me, what differentiates me is that I'm transparent, and I like that.
Right.
They're not transparent. They're behind the wall many times, and they say, okay, you want it, $2,000, send me $2,000, then we start. And the person doesn't even know, much. And I want to be transparent. So I want to have that person, that prospect, know that I really work on his positioning. I am qualified to do that. He will see the 21st podcast I will be pitching to. He will see the pitch itself, the positioning, and he can actually, sometimes they don't want to interfere, but sometimes they do. I love it. So we can actually work on this together. And then I want them to have an experience. So I give them 3 interviews, a 3-interview package, experience package for $699. And I give another extra bonus. So they get actually 4 interviews for only $700.
Right.
Like that's a potential of 20,000 people if they're a great class. And then I hopefully they turn into buying always 10 interviews. That's $2,100. So they get 10 interviews, $2,100, another 10, $2,100. And that's what I go for. And that is what I earn with it. And I do sometimes get jealousy from certain podcast hosts. Unfortunately, some people know how to make money with it. They use it for their own brand, for their own business, for networking. But sometimes they have no idea how to make money with it. And they think, I'm working so hard on this. I format it. And, I get to know a lot of podcast hosts, right? And then they do some crazy stuff, like chasing my own clients. They want to do the same business I do. They say, no, Josef is bad. Do it with me, Or they say, we have all this work. There's a waiting list. That's typical, the waiting list. This is not a crazy thing. I like it, they're looking for profit models, right? There's a waiting list. It's a high-level podcast. And I take your guest, but it might be next year, right? Here's the booking calendar for February 2025. Or for $1,000, he can be next week on the show. Some people do that, you know.
Sure.
So they're looking at creative, innovative ways how to make money. It's not just the advertising, but as I said, this kind of money-making thing with podcasts is growing now at a 27 compound rate, and it's going to be $130 billion in 2030. So the people are paradigms, right? They try around new paradigms because you can make money with it. Of course you can, but most podcast hosts don't. But the podcast booking agencies, if you do it right, I mean, you know, if you differentiate yourself, you can make some money, but you know, it's like it will also grow. So yeah.
Cool.
I mean, there are podcast booking agencies out there. They have 30 employees and they make $5 million revenues a year.
Right.
I don't have so many people. I don't want it. For me, it's more like a lifestyle business.
Yeah, so exactly. So you're actually you're doing what you love and get paid for it.
That's right, and it's a fantastic thing. I really wouldn't want to do anything else right now. Love it.
So just to wrap this up, Josef, what brings you real deep joy? In other words, what would you do even if you weren't paid for it?
Even if I weren't paid for it, but I like to travel the world still. I was in so many countries in my life, and I like the beautiful places, the beaches, and mountain villages and all this. And I like great restaurants and meeting people, and that's adventures, really adventures. So if somebody wants to pay me for this, that's great. But I do it also if nobody pays me for it. So I'm planning another trip to Central America, all in 2 months, and I know a lot of people there, like Honduras. I was there with the newspaper 3 years. Nicaragua, Costa Rica is a wonderful, beautiful place to be. And yeah, these kind of things I like a lot. And while I'm actually working, I have no problem. I get a real nice apartment there on the beach, a swimming pool and all this, and I have fun at night. I go out and all this, but I like it to have something to do, you know, because life is that kind of balance. I tried it when I had this e-commerce store, and I made this $400,000, and everything was outsourced because for everything I had somebody to work for me in my company. And I was just with my laptop, like all these years in Central America. But believe it or not, it was not fulfilling to do nothing for a while. For a few years, I did nothing.
So what you're saying is you actually enjoy the interaction and community of people that you actually have the conversations with. Is that correct?
Yes. And I also enjoy my processes. For instance, you know, it's always a challenge. Like now you learn about AI and you incorporate it in your business and you prepare yourself for the future. And every day to be engaged in this every day gives you a balance in life. If you have, like you know, if you're just like having nothing to do at all, what you will do sooner or later, you will have a challenge to not let yourself go. But even if you don't, you know, you will just really every day brainwash yourself with, oh, I lived the best life ever, drink another beer. You know, couldn't have it better. I found out that work is fun. It's nice. I like it. Not too much. I mean, you know, sometimes I get 8 hours, but sometimes 6. Sometimes I can take a few days off. Sometimes 3. But I'm free. But I like it. It's very important.
In other words, you're doing what you love without being manic in terms of productivity. Is that right?
Sometimes it's still, because my business is 5 years old. It's with the AI. I thought it helps me a lot, like getting more productive. But I got more clients. I got more productive, yes, but I have also more work now. I would say it's a challenge for everybody to enjoy your life, and you know, that's what I learn a lot also with the people here, the ones who are wealthy and have a house here, and you know. It's always a challenge. I mean, even they sometimes just drink too much and stuff like this, you know. You have this, they sold their business for like hundreds of millions. Really, there's one. And ultimately, you know, and they get drunk at night. What else to do? You drink the best wine, ball costs $200. You have the best food every night, and it's also, buy another house and another house, another house. So we all have the challenge, right? I mean, we have the challenge to live a life that fulfills us. And that means, in my world, the definition is when you go into yourself and you find your true aspirations. Sometimes that only goes hand in hand with meditation, really. So you meditate, you really recognize again what is important to me. What do I want to experience in life? And then you, with self-discipline, you work on it, towards it. You go always from A to B. But if you are empty, you don't know anymore what you want, and you've sold your business. And now what it was fun. I was growing my business, and now nothing. I have the money. So you still need to always meditate what is now important in my life, and that only can fulfill you. As soon as you do something which is not from you, which are not your aspirations, you know what happens according to Buddhism. Actually, the Buddha said that also. You will always be thirsty because you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing what your mother told you. You didn't want to become that, but now you are because your father told you should be that, and then you become that. Now you're not fulfilled because you don't do what you're born for, your real aspirations. So now you want to find satisfaction and fulfillment, and you think, if I do more of it, I will be fulfilled. And you do more and more of it, and you get even worse. So it's a challenge. Always, how can I really enjoy my life? Because tomorrow we don't know. So many things happen to us, to other people. Tomorrow they're sick. Tomorrow they're dead. Tomorrow they're broke. Anything can always happen. Today is the day, right? Now.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, when I grow up, I want to be me, not someone else.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I say, I want to be me, doing exactly what I want to do as me. My dream. What is my dream? It's my dream. And that is my life. And you will be fulfilled that way. If you still have to be very mindfully disciplined. Self-discipline is important because nothing comes for free. You have these aspirations. That's what you want to experience.
Yep.
It comes with self-discipline and also with memory all the time, that you're always reminded mindfully, what do I want every day? Because the biggest problem in this world is distraction. So that people talk about the journey, the Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey. What is the hero's journey nowadays in our life? It's like the Holy Grail is where you live in the now, in the eternal now. And everything else is a distraction. And that's what we all struggle with. We're getting distracted from what we really want in our life. And then we are not fulfilled. And then we want more of the bad things, the things which haven't made us happy in the first place.
Yep.
We think if we get more of it, we will be happy, but that's never happening.
Yeah, I love Joseph Campbell's statement about what it really means to be in the space that I think every one of us wants to be. He says, follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss, yes. Yes.
And that is where, and that's why I ask you questions about what are you curious about? Mm-hmm. The other thing I'm really want to know is what compels you? That's really what fascinates me as well. In other words, mm-hmm. What you show up every day. For me, I'm actually, my new mission is what's the intersection of humanity and AI, because AI is going to transform what we are as humans.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, for me, it has a lot to do with these things also, I have to say, but also a lot has to do with this self-knowledge. And you can never know yourself. Yep. Completely, because you're just the whole universe. Everybody is. So how do you know the whole universe? But that is curiosity. That is, I'm curious about it. And then what I really want in life that belongs to me also. That's my dream. So I see it, Jeff, like, you can think of if you would be God, and you had like hundreds of dreams. Each one was controlled. You experienced everything, because you could dream 70 years in 1 hour. You dreamt it. It's a nice story actually from Ellen Watts. but it's good. And you tempted and all this. But what I really realize, you know, even for God, he might have said one day, no, I want some uncontrolled thing. Just I don't want to control this all the time, you know. And I think that's who we are now. You know, we are living this uncontrolled train, which is still your train. And you are, you know, anything can happen to you tomorrow. And you know, you came to this world. Now we have AI coming up. And before it was something else. But if you can live with it, you know, and in the now, and you can enjoy it, that you don't know everything and you don't have control over things, because that makes it actually interesting. You have control, you know, that's what I see. That's my philosophy also, in a way. And that's very much in relationship with the Godhead in India, that idea of the Godhead. And I don't subscribe to any, I don't believe anything. But I am almost inspired by those kind of things. That's my curiosity in life. And that's my bliss, actually, also. And Joseph Campbell was very much into this also, Hinduism, Buddhism, and stuff like this.
So let's do a little bit of a chat about Joseph Campbell. I'm a fanboy of Joseph Campbell. I think the hero's journey, where you step from the ordinary into the extraordinary, what's your call? So what's your call? In other words, if you had the call, and on top of that then is you've had the call. So what is the call for you? What's your journey where you're going to learn and then bring a message back to the world? What's that for you?
Excellent question. You see, the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey is just that you realize when you hear about it the first time, right? You realize, wow, you know, there's actually a blueprint. There's actually a blueprint for everybody, right? For everybody. It's not the same journey. And I have found
it's your blueprint, not anyone else.
It's just like, it's good to know that there is a blueprint, there is a story, and that's happened. It's a real recurring thing, and there is in the Zen Buddhist tradition, in the Chinese Taoist tradition, there is the 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽 pictures, stories, the same thing. It's in every culture. This kind of blueprint of the hero's journey is in every culture.
Exactly.
And so that's where he has it from, right? But I like it very much from that 𝓦𝓱𝓪𝓽 pictures. There's 10 pictures. And the first picture is like a younger person, is a round circle. That's actually in the temples still in certain places, Zen Buddhism. And I wrote my thesis on it when I studied in New York, and it fascinated me. It's just like the hero's journey. And that's where I come to answer your question. So there's someone who looks around, he's searching. That's the beginning of the spirituality. What is he searching? He doesn't know, but he's some things, you know. And then there's a bull. He sees a bull, an ox. That's why it's called the 10 ox herding pictures. So he sees an ox and he wants to catch it, but it escapes all the time. So now finally there's another picture and another picture, another picture. He rides the ox, he tames it, he sits down, he forgets the ox. That's his wild nature, his animal nature, basically. He forgets it. He forgets even himself. And there's empty circle. And then there's the bodhisattva at the end, where the bodhisattva, like heavy like me, you know, nice belly and everything, he shows the young guy who was in the first picture, just another one, how to become enlightened. And for me, that is the hero's journey. I mean, I like very much that idea to expand my consciousness. That's my purpose in life. Right. So when I expand my consciousness through my life, through my adventures, because I many times, like the hero's journey, you go, like Joseph Campbell says, you don't go into the forest where everybody goes in. That's not interesting to the guy who is on the hero's journey. No, you find a place in the wild forest where there's nobody going, but it's very attractive. So you go all alone in, and the adventure starts. So that is for me an adventure and another adventure, but why? Why all these adventures? Because that's us. We are kind of, we want to expand our consciousness. That fulfills us.
Yeah. So that's what's really great about the hero's journey, is that you actually step into a path no one's ever trodden before. That's your journey. And actually, I think that's really good for people to going, if you follow someone else's path, that's their path, it's not yours. So the Knights of the Round Table, for example, they went into the forest where there was no path. And it's the only way to discover your path is to actually step into the unknown without it being written for you.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, I had these experiences, you know. I mean, I was coming back from India, from South America, where I traveled with two friends. I was only 20. And then
Yep.
then I went to India for 2 years, and I was actually having quite some adventures there. There was no tourism where I was. I mean, there was tourism, but I was on my own path. I know these kind of things, and it can throw you out of when I came back to Austria. You know, it can throw you out of the normal and the comfort zone completely, which is not advisable. But then I used this and I studied all these scriptures and world religions without being part of any religion for 5 years for a master's degree in New York. So, you know, you never know how things in a pendulum help you in your life.
Exactly.
Something very bad has this incredible effect on your life that you say, I would have never done this if that would not have happened to me. It's a pendulum, the whole thing. And that's where I love that story from the Chinese farmer, and you know it probably, where the horse runs away, and it teaches equanimity, basically. That's what we have to have in life. The horse runs away, so all the neighbors come and say, you poor fellow neighbor, we feel sorry for you. He said, maybe. And then the horse comes with wild horses back the next day. And so all the neighbors come again and say, wow, you're so lucky. I mean, you're so lucky, happy, you know. We congratulate you. He says, maybe. So his son comes and he rides out with the wild horse. He wants to tame it and falls off the horse and breaks his leg terribly. So he comes back and it's over in a second. And all the neighbors come again and say, you poor fellow, you have this tragedy again. And he says, maybe. And then it goes on for a long time, but it's already enough when I say now the last thing, which is the army comes, the army in China now, and recruits the young man. Of course, the son is not going to be recruited because he broke his leg. He's in the bed.
Yep.
So that is life. We don't know basically what one thing in our life right now, what that actually the meaning is in the future.
Yeah. I don't want to know what the future is because I love the adventure of the unknown.
That's why it is the future.
Yeah.
If you want to know the future, you will become paranoid. You will become panic. You will have panic. You will have worries, you know. And if you want to have knowledge and knowing, because it comes in the duality of knowing and unknowing. If you want to have the knowing, then go to the past. But it's terribly boring. You know all the past. You know it. You know, I've been there. It's over. It's knowledge. It's known. The future is the opposite. So if it's uncertain and uncertainty, and you like it, and you can say, okay, it's a free fall. I cannot hold on to anything, but that is, I'm really alive. I really like. Then that's the good thing. You will have already a good life. Basically, you have to accept it, I think.
Yeah.
And you do. It's good.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. I love stepping into the unknown and see what actually turns up. And then life becomes this exciting adventure.
Yes. Yeah, and as soon as you do it like you do it, and I'm not always, I cannot always do it. Sometimes I get worried and stuff like this.
We all do. It's okay.
Yeah. But you know, the thing is this, when you can really free yourself and see it that way, that the necessary element of your life, the uncertainty, that is, again, what I said earlier, you know, we are just like, so as if we have decided to not have a controlled dream anymore, but a real dream, which is all possibilities. You are just, I'm me because it was happening now to me in this world, right? And but ultimately we're all the profound life itself, like Rumi said, a Rumi ancient sage in Persia, 12th century, said, you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in a drop. So it's the holographic idea that we have all of the universe in us, and we are also in the universe.
Yeah.
It's all of me. It's all of me. And we can, you know, we can say that life would not be life if we would be able to know the future, because then it could not be life anymore. It would be something else. Not impossible, actually impossible to imagine such a life where you would know everything.
Yeah. For me, in terms of Christianity and religion, talks about heaven being something without. Reality is that heaven lies within all of us. Paradise is within all of us. And we talk about, you know, gods and stuff, but for me, I discovered a God, and the God lies within me. I'm not talking about I'm a God, but what I'm saying is that I really am excited with the fact that God is much bigger than the fixation of a religion. Our gods are within all of us to discover the world and explore that. That's what I find really, really exciting.
Yes, that is the curiosity. That is the curiosity for me also, the main curiosity. You see, if you read the 𝓬𝓵𝓵 in Buddhism, and as I said, I don't subscribe to any organized religion, don't believe anything really.
Yep.
But if you read it, there is the mention of God in Buddhist, and the difference between a God there is that he's still selfish. He's like a Buddha, but he's not a selfless Buddha, like the Bodhisattva. He's still selfish, but he's a Buddha. So I can clearly understand, like, if you look at Jeff Bezos and people like this, right? I mean, when they talk about that they will populate the whole, space and all this and make worlds and worlds. These are gods. They are self-selfish, I believe, And then there are the Buddhas, and they are also there. And we have it all in us. God himself, for me, what was a real enlightening understanding suddenly was that you have the Judeo-Christian Islamic conception, and there's the cosmology goes with it, like the creation and all this. It's really completely different in the East. The image of God is a different image, is a different cosmology also.
Yep.
And if you can somehow respect both ideas and recognize that you never will know it, maybe you will never meet a God, because how can you if there is no God? Atheism is big in our culture, because obviously the Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition, if you don't believe in that God out there, then you're atheist. In the East, like in Buddhism, it's a very natural thing, because you don't expect to meet a God, because you just expect that your own nature comes out. And because there is no conception of God, they don't have a problem running around in the street and telling everybody I'm God, and then you might be crucified. They don't. But nothing is better. This is not better and that is not better. It's, for me, it's nobody knows. And that is the fascinating thing. I read the Upanishads, which is the philosophical scripture of Hinduism, which is the Vedas, the Rig Vedas, and the Mahabharata, and the Bhagavad Gita and all this. Everything India is the oldest thing, the oldest. But the Upanishads, they write about the sages of India. There are no saints, right? There are yogis and sages. They write about those. And you know how it starts? And it's so deep. The whole thing is so deep. It starts out, nobody knows anything, not even those sages, not even those yogis. They don't know anything. We don't know anything. That was enlightening for me, because you see, that is like Zhuangzi in China, Taoism. He says, the world is like a bird who opens its beak. The bird opens its beak and it utters a sound. That's the world now. That's the world, sound. And then it closes it again. Mystery upon mystery, right? Then the world is over. Yep. It's like a beak of a bird. And I think as far as we can go is always mystery and paradox. Mystery, paradox. Paradox beyond words. Words are ambiguous. The more you talk about it, you want to nail it down. You say, now have this conversation, and we want to argue and we want to discuss. Maybe the words will enlighten us. The words never enlighten you. They stay always ambiguous, ultimately you have always 10 words for one thing. Sometimes people quarrel about it because they say, God, no, also energy. The third one says something else. And words are definitely just pointers, like in Zen Buddhism, pointers. A finger pointing to the moon. Don't look at the finger. It's just pointing to reality. The reality is not the word. And that's also called basically, I can go on, and you probably don't want that. And so ultimately it's a paradox, the whole thing, and a mystery. That's my 2 words. It's a paradox, beyond words, and a mystery. That's how far I get.
So enjoy the adventure and the mystery of life and embrace that, because then it becomes an incredible adventure. So thank you very much, Josef, for sharing your insights about life and about podcasting. And it's been an absolute joy to actually have this conversation. Thank you.
Jeff, that's wonderful to know you. And who would have known that this conversation was the way it is, the way it was. Thank you very much, also. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.